Buddy, you're a boy, make a big noise playing in the street. You're gonna be a big man someday. You got mud on your face. We will rock you.
There goes my iPad.
Hey everybody, welcome to Twin Talk, a video discussion show where twin brothers Chris and Kevin drink and draw while talking about comic books, movies, and all things pop culture. We are your hosts, Chris Hart,
Kevin Hart.
and today we're going to be talking about Wandavision, Episode 3. Last week, the debut, Marvel was generous. They gave us 2 episodes. We got to see the flavor, the vibe, the tone of the show, and a lot of people have been getting negative reviews towards this series.
It's a mixed bag.
It's definitely a mixed bag. I feel like this was in such production for so long that we can't really judge it based on those first couple episodes because they obviously are going for a homage to classic televisions throughout the decades, and there's obviously a bigger story to come. So let's be patient, people. Don't start hating yet.
Yeah, so far I've seen some mixed reviews about it. Some people say it's boring, it's trash, they hate it. I don't think it's fair to say that this early on. I think half of the fun and half the purpose of the show is for that, like you said, that evolution through television history to show us classic sitcoms and everything else in between up until modern day. Looks like, at least based on the Instagram, I'll throw it up on the screen. If you look at the Instagram, it literally is taking us through the decades.
The timelines.
So I think that's part of it. But we do get episode title reveals finally. I think it was just episodes 1 and 2 last week, but we see on Disney Plus they released the first 2 titles, which was episode 1, filmed in front of a live audience. Episode 2 is Don't Touch That Dial, and episode 3 is now in color.
Kevin threw up the other day on the Twin Talk Instagram a poll asking people what their thoughts were on the series of WandaVision so far. He got a ton of trash emojis as responses.
A lot of hate mail.
a lot of death threats to his front door. But as part of the appeal of the show, I feel they're paying homage to these classic TV shows and that charm of, the cheesy, almost corny, TV shows from the past. This one,
very theatrical.
Yeah, episode 3 was obviously paying homage to the Brady Bunch, to the point where they had the same staircase and setup of the house.
Even the intro, it had the boxes.
Yeah, the boxes of everything and the title font. So people need to give it some time. I think we're jumping the gun a little too early with the hate, and we need to see the story flesh out.
Again, story-wise, very little happens. If I could recap the episode in my mind, a stork shows up from a painting on the wall.
That's it.
That's it. Yeah, credits. And then other than that, Vision's trying to work out this pregnancy. She's getting bigger. She's blowing up like a balloon throughout the episode. Clearly, this is an unnatural pregnancy. And she gives birth in her living room,
Yeah, she just...
That's it.
her water breaks, and there's water coming in through the house, and there's a lot of baby imagery throughout it. The stork, the water breaking with the ceiling and everything, and we obviously see that this doctor comes in. He states the obvious that she's pregnant, and she's obviously getting more and more pregnant at an unnatural pace, like you said before. It's been a couple days, and she's already at 6 months, I believe they said. So the baby's coming Friday, and they got 3 days to figure this out. Vision's
she said it was
out.
coming Friday, but wasn't it the same day?
It was the same day, yeah. Vision's freaking out. He's like, why'd you pull the goalie? So, there's a lot of questions that are to be answered in this series, so we'll find out.
The safest bet is abstinence, people.
Absolutely. And especially when you're a synthezoid, I don't think you figuratively and literally can procreate, so abstinence is the only way.
Other than that, all we can really do as a general audience is kind of
enjoy the ride,
but also kind of theorize, kind of have fun with the what is happening, what could be, what's really going on. And it seems like they're borrowing heavily from the comic books Avengers Disassembled storyline, and it's going to be very cool to see that translated live action to the MCU, where in the comics, Wanda, she can't handle the reality of the death of her children, who she created in the first place with her powers, and it seems like that's what they're doing in this show, is that Vision died in the MCU. Clearly her brother, Pietro, we'll get into later too, Quicksilver died, and clearly she has kind of a traumatic moment in the show about it. And so it seems like she's kind of creating this fake reality, this illusion, this magic trick, and it's just harming herself, harming others, as we see. We'll get into all that too, but it's going to be very cool to see that adapted live action, the Avengers Disassembled storyline. It's very cool to see because even the comics Civil War, and everything else in the MCU. Clearly, they're borrowing, obviously, from their properties, but it's cool to see the differences between the comics and the movies.
Comics and movies, yeah. Because they have, and they will always continue to take creative liberties from comics to film because some things don't translate. Some things only work in comics that can only work in comics, and then some things you need to change for the film just to add some difference too, you know.
Some originality, yeah.
Yeah, and so far Marvel's done a pretty good job. They've had a few misses here and there. We talked about it last week with the Mandarin, AIM, even Ultron to some degree, but overall Marvel's done a pretty good job at taking the source material and adding some different takes on it to bring the fresh new audience, the casual moviegoers, they can understand what's going on without having to read 70 years of comic books.
I think that's part of the negative reviews also, is that if you're a hardcore Marvel fan, hardcore MCU fan, you kind of have an idea. If you've been along this, 23 movies in, you kind of have an idea of what's going on. In the comics, you obviously know where they're borrowing the influences from. But if you're just a general audience, even outside of the U.S., I saw some reviews too that as a foreign audience member, they never knew anything about American sitcoms. So I was like, I never even thought about that. It's kind of limiting their audience. And so I could kind of see why not everyone's on board. But I think, again, it's too early to tell. Maybe it would help if this was bingeable, if this was released all at once. Maybe we could see the storyline throughout. We could understand what they're doing. But until then, obviously, we're just getting the serialized, episodic, half-hour episodes, which is very sitcom. So I appreciate that they're sticking with that.
I will agree. I feel like this show could have benefited from a binge fest, like just taking that one day, just powering through all 9 episodes to see where it all leads to, because I could see a casual audience member just getting bored of this quick. Like, if I wasn't into Marvel, I feel like this would be the episode I'd be like, all right, I'm out, jump ship. But we get some teases at the end to see the bigger picture. But like you said too, like I didn't even think about that with cutting off their own audience, because America has romanticized this period of television where we had these famous actors in the 50s, 60s, and even the 70s, like on these sitcoms. That was like the heyday of television, So
very American, Hollywood.
Yeah. It's like pure Americano. So I never even thought about that, about excluding foreign, markets. So that's a big thing too that they had to consider, and I think that's a creative choice that they made and that they're going to stick to, and we just kind of have to trust them throughout the process. Kevin Feige has given us enough. He has enough of a track record for us to put our trust in him. So we should trust him with this series as well.
Not gonna lie, even I, as a fan, waiting to see how this is gonna unfold, was kind of like, all right, let's pick up the pace. Is this really all we're gonna see? Is this stork walking around and her just kind of like, red smoking it out of here? It's got that very trippy vibe, that weird vibe, weird and wacky. But I don't think that's going to be enough to hold the general audience. Because, again, my
attention
favorite
span.
Yeah. Again, my favorite part of the episode and the show is when they all kind of like, even I think the neighbors, the guys cutting through like concrete with like the hedge cutter.
What's that about?
But then you kind of see that something else is going on. Clearly something's off, but they're kind of whispering. They're kind of like something's gossiping is happening. And that's the bigger picture of the story, is what is actually happening. Who are they working for? Who are they representing? What's going on? And we see that towards the end of the episode. And those are my favorite moments, is when it's kind of getting revealed. But it's a very slow reveal. And I could see why a lot of the audience is kind of like, what's going on? Let's pick this up a little bit, because it's 2021. If you're not going through the feed, you lost us in 2 seconds.
You need to capture the attention.
The attention span is so low these days.
Not a lot happened in the episode, but the main spectacle of the episode, as we see, is Wanda gives birth to these 2 twin sons, baby boys, Tommy and Billy, but we know them as Wiccan and Speed from the Young Avengers, an excellent, excellent series by Alan Heinberg and Jim Chung back in 05-06, I believe. I remember reading that years back. Absolutely amazing read. Highly recommend it. So I'm excited to see what plans they have for this. Obviously, this goes back into the first episode where they're saying for the children. So I want to see how this plays out. And if we're going to get a Young Avengers series in the pipeline, it seems that Marvel's
hitting that button pretty hard.
Yeah, they're pushing the next generation button, like you said.
Yeah, between the announcements of Kamala Khan's Miss Marvel,
even Monica Williams, Ironheart,
even Monica Rambeau seems to be the character of Geraldine in this show. A lot of fans are theorizing that, and it just seems like they're kind of pushing us towards, again, like the next generation of Marvel for the audience, because obviously in the comics, these storylines can last forever. We can constantly recycle, repeat, and add new refreshing flavor. But these actors, they're getting older, their contracts are going, so obviously they have to switch up the formula a little bit compared to the comics.
They age in real time. Comic books are everlasting. So
Exactly.
Superman's been 30 for 80 years.
Exactly.
But as we see too, for those unfamiliar, Monica Rambeau, I remember from back in like Secret Wars, back in the 80s, the comic books. She was Captain Marvel at that time.
Which would make sense if you're a comic fan, knowing who this character is. In Captain Marvel, I believe she's the young girl who she's idolizing, Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel, Brie Larson. And so that would make sense because this is modern day, and Captain Marvel was set in, I believe, the 90s. So she would obviously be around this age now, a little bit older. So who knows what they have in store with that. It seems, we'll get into it now, that she's a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent or a sword agent.
She has the necklace.
She's got the necklace. I thought at first it was like an upside down cross. I was like, Mephisto. I was like, let's go.
Just go right for the satanic
Yeah, just go right into it. Which, I didn't even think of this, by the way. Apparently Evan Peters is signed on in the Marvel Universe to play Mephisto.
I do remember hearing that. Yeah.
I don't know if that's in this series or in
He might show up.
Doctor Strange, because we know that they're kind of involving Wanda in that as well. It's obvious that she's a villain, but it's obviously that he's got a hand in this too. He plays a role, but I just think that's funny because he was Quicksilver in Fox's X-Men.
X-Men, yeah.
And her brother's Quicksilver, Pietro, which obviously she has a PTSD moment with. So I just thought that was a funny connection.
Yeah, let's talk about that moment where Monica Rambeau or Geraldine recounts that Pietro was killed by Ultron in Age of Ultron, and for a minute Wanda's just like, "What'd you just say?"
What the hell did you just say to me?
I think she's like the misty tear run down her face after she sings like a Sokovian lullaby. She's like, "Adore me, adore me."
It's obvious that this character Geraldine plays a larger role because even the neighbors are talking about it, where the guy's like, "We're all like something." It's like, dude, spit it out. Like, what are you? Like, even I was like, all right, what is happening here? So I'm excited to see how that plays out.
I'm confused by that because it seems like they're all like, "Oh, watch out for Geraldine. She has no home here. She's new around here."
Yeah.
Are they, like, if they're part of this neighborhood, are they figments of Wanda's imagination, or are they real people in reality and they're like being used as pawns in this and they're kind of like willingly in this? And then Geraldine's just trying to get in there to, like, I don't know.
Well, again,
disrupt the mission, I guess. I don't know.
Going back to the fact that she was, the younger child in Captain Marvel, and she's trying to put this all together. It kind of seemed like she was uncertain. She was like, "Oh, he was killed by Ultron, right?" And it seems like maybe she's trying to play catch up in the Marvel universe, or also maybe just remind us. Maybe it's just a plot point, but because she would be younger as a sword agent because she was in Captain Marvel and younger during those events, it seems. So we're just trying to piece it together, like the rest of the audience watching the show.
Yeah. Like I said in episode 1, I was theorizing that maybe Wanda is like, she went kind of postal and is in some sort of containment cell from S.W.O.R.D. in a space station, but it seems that Westview is on Earth, it looked like. You said it was looking like Pennsylvania a little bit. They had a little sign that said Westview, so I don't know if that's like the name of the place. I didn't pause it to watch, but
it just looks like some like high school with a baseball field and everything that she's kind of containing herself in, which looks like similar to the comics. I think it's Pleasant Hill, it's called, which was like this perfect town, like fictional town.
I don't remember that. We see that there's obvious energy beams that are keeping Westview in this like little area, maybe keeping the dream alive for her. So who knows where this thing's gonna head?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's obvious at this point that Wanda is partly the villain because it's almost like this fake reality that she's believing her own lie. Even Vision says something's not right here. She reverses it.
That's right.
I'm assuming. And then, because even in the first episode, the beekeeper was about to come out with the sword logo on her, and she says no, and she reverses it. Mm-hmm. So clearly, maybe it's just her trying to take comfort. And then even Monica Rambeau, Geraldine, the character, she says, she's reminding her of reality, which clearly she wants nothing to do with. And I think it's like a metaphor of like, you can only help people if they want to be helped. And I kind of like that take on the Marvel Cinematic Universe of almost like
mental awareness.
Mental health. Honestly.
Yeah.
But we can see that she's clearly denying it. I thought she was going to do like a Twilight Zone moment again. Like maybe she's like he's like, "Oh, where's Geraldine?" And she's like, "She's gone." Like I thought she was going to be like this little like, toy on her shelf, like creepy. And clearly we see that Wanda, she's no saint in this series. And we see even metaphorically the widescreen. The episode shows us the bigger reveal of what's actually going on, and we see in modern day what's happening. She gets kicked out of Westview, and she's like rolling around in the grass, and we see what I'm assuming is like SHIELD and now SWORD agents coming to her rescue of like what's going on in there in the illusion, because clearly they're trying to reach out to her, and Wanda
trying
just
to like infiltrate it, and
she just doesn't want to accept the help.
Shot her out of it. I just feel like the ending of this episode where they cut to widescreen and they reveal more about the actual plot moving forward of this like maybe illusion that they're in, swords on top of this. If they just sprinkled that throughout the episodes more, it would be more effective, and I could see more people sticking around because they're like, all right, let's, I get it. You're doing this like hokey television homage, but there's like weird things sprinkled throughout of actual reality. That would keep the attention more of people, and it would benefit the show. Also, like I said before, I feel like binging this show would help it, but they're going for that sitcom and weekly. It just makes it makes sense as a business to release things on Friday, keep the buzz going for months at a time. And you were saying that you feel that Wanda might be a villain in this episode in this show. I could see where that would be like logical, but also I feel like they're like pretty heavy-handed with the Hydra stuff and these commercials.
Yes, I forgot to talk about that.
The Hydra soak or whatever, whatever that commercial was.
The like bar of soap.
Yeah, taking a bubble bath and Hydra stuff. I feel like they're really like hitting you over the head with this Hydra stuff and Strucker. So
again, we don't know what to believe.
Yeah,
we really don't, because we've read the rumors about Evan Peters as Mephisto. Again, is that going to be in this show? Is that going to be in Doctor Strange 2, where Wanda plays a role as a villain? Because even in the comics in Disassembled, we see that Doctor Strange kind of came to the aid. We saw that the magic, he said the magic was being abused. So it'll be cool to see him kind of like try and level the playing field if something's not right here, which is going to be very cool to see. Again, one of my most anticipated MCU movies going forward. Again, only time will tell.
I think Evan Peters is a perfect casting choice for Mephisto because he's like kind of like a Loki figure, he's this young, weaselly kind of guy. He was great in X-Men.
Like lawless.
Yeah. Like
the rules don't apply.
Yeah, exactly.
Twins, dude, twins. Twin talk.
But Evan Peters, for those that don't know, Mephisto is basically the Marvel Universe's version of Satan. From the comics, Mephisto was kind of tied into Wanda with this whole like the children thing. Doctor Strange got involved. She had the kids. They were a figment of her imagination. She lost control. This all happened in Disassembled, where she like loses her mind and I believe kills like all of mutants. And then like the X-Men were like torn apart for years, and we're still feeling those effects today in comics. They're finally just like undoing those things in X-Men books. So a lot of stuff that we're not going to get into right now. There's other YouTube channels for that. But I'm excited to see how he plays the character. I believe he's going to be showing up in this series. I feel like Doctor Strange is going to be showing up at the end of this series, and it's just
being that it ties into the multiverse of madness.
Yeah, they said that this is going to be like the trilogy of it's going to be like WandaVision, Doctor Strange, and the Multiverse of Madness, and that sets up Spider-Man 3.
Very cool.
And we know that Spider-Man 2, Far From Home, left off with Mysterio outing Peter Parker as Spider-Man, but I believe we're going to see 3 Peter Parkers in the next movie, so the world's not going to know who's who. So that's an amazing like idea to me. All these Peter Parkers in the Marvel Cinematic
They got
Universe.
plans, man.
And a lot of crappy villains too, Electro. But I'm really excited for Spider-Man 3. I feel like people are hating on it now, this whole WandaVision thing with the slow burn, but
I feel like it has huge
it's gonna
repercussions
pay off
for this next phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Again, just going back to the fact that Doctor Strange is going to make an appearance by the end of the show, it's rumored, and going right into his sequel, Multiverse of Madness, we see she's clearly bending reality. That has to have consequences in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Between Doctor Strange, Kang the Conqueror, again, going into Spider-Man 3. Cannot wait to see how it plays out.
Same way that the Ancient One in, I think it was Endgame, talked about
the different strands.
The strands of time. Once you remove one, that creates a million different things and stuff. Like, there's consequences to these actions, whether they're fiction or not. But, I'm excited to see where this goes, and I think it's going to get pretty crazy, and it's going to open up a pretty wide world of storytelling for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and honestly, superhero movies moving forward. That like this whole multiverse angle seems to be the way to go, and it's going to open up a whole new thing of superhero movies that's going to keep the medium and genre around for a long time. So, I'm hyped. What about you?
Some fresh blood, yeah. I mean, like you said in a few episodes ago, that superhero movies have done pretty much all they can at this point. It's time to inject some new blood and get some new formulas going. Again, the multiverse between DC and Marvel, that seems to be the aspect they're going in with all these different simultaneous stories being told at the same time. And again, just with Marvel alone pushing the new Avengers. So I'm just excited to see what they bring with the next generation, new audience, new stories. I'm on board.
I will say, like, being a fan of this MCU and the Avengers, like, it's been amazing. But having read Young Avengers back in the day, that was so good that, like, I hope they take inspiration from that and make a Young Avengers movie and do it justice, because that book is so good. And I hope they get Alan Heinberg involved, honestly, because he's a TV writer, I believe. So it would be great to see his, get him on board, see how they can flesh out that story for the future, because Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, they're not going to be around forever. So let's see the new generation make Marvel a legacy. And that's what they're trying to do in the books right now. It's not working, but the movies will work because these actors age and you have to have a legacy. So I'm excited for the future of the MCU, and I feel like this is just a starting point.
Anyways, that about wraps up today's episode of Twin Talk. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, comment below to join the discussion, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content. We'll see you next time. Peace!
Ooh! Big news today on Twin Talk. I'm going to be an uncle. We're good.